Anti-Aram, the DDNS. So Aram Owoo, she is the nurse in charge of the unit. And then Dr. ANIMA ADDAE, one of the doctors working in this unit. And then Dr. SOTTIE, who is one of the specialists, actually the specialist on duty for the day shift in the intensive care unit. Yeah, so you're welcome to visit our units, and we're going to try to give you an exclusive tour of what the life of critical care staff looks like in a day. We'll do our best to maintain the confidentiality of our patients, so forgive us for that, but we'll try as much as possible to give you a best eye view of what a day in our life here in the context of COVID-19 looks like. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We are absolutely pleased to meet all of you. So we're here inside the intensive care units building proper, where a lot of action goes on. We'll be understanding all the dynamics in a short time. But Dr. Chris Owoo will tell us briefly what is going to happen in a short time.
One of our senior critical care nurses, Lodina, is actually who is going in at the moment. These are critically ill patients requiring frequent entry into the ICU, and they're requiring continuous monitoring, which we do in our monitoring room all the way through there. So all this she's done is basically she's protected everywhere, making sure that no part of her body is exposed. And this is once used. She's going to use it only single. And then when she finishes, she's going to discard every one of them. And then in another short period of time, somebody else, you can see others are preparing in there, and then they would move in. So Lodina is going to basically continue her work.
Okay. And how often do the patients feed?
All right, so depending on what diets the patients are on, based on their nutritional assessment, some of them may be on continuous feeding through their veins, others may be eating orally, and in which case, based on their nutritional assessment and prescription, it may be 3 times a day like me and you, it may be 4 times, it may be even multiple times with different meals. But all that would have already been decided based on our assessment of the patient, their nutritional assessment, and their requirement for that day. Again, that means that the therapists or nutritionists would sometimes come and also do this assessment and discuss this management with us, that then will prepare this based on that. So our Deputy Director Nursing Service, Mrs. Aram Owoo, and Auntie Emma, one of our senior nurses, would actually come talk to Lodina. She had gone through what she's supposed to do, but they're going to reiterate all of that again, one by one, on a documented paper, but that paper is not going to go in. So I'm just going to leave them for DDNS to take over now to explain to us what we're going to do, because that's nursing care. That's not my part.
You spoke about you and I feeding 3 times a day. Well, I eat like 5 times a day sometimes. Wow. People say I am a glutton, but that's okay.
You're not sure that's all.
I'm trying. Okay.
As Lodina is going inside, there are some instructions that I have to give to Lodina to do. And Lodina have to give this patient, Mr. L, metformin, to check RBS, doing output and feeding. And then Madam R.